Blazer brass jacketed hollow point ammunition in 357 Magnum and 40 Smith & Wesson. As of lately, Blazer has come out with a new line of ammunition that's kind of an inexpensive hollow point that's, considered a self-defense cartridge. They're in 9mm, 40, 45, and 10mm. So I brought out the 40 Smith & Wesson version to test today. Interestingly enough, there is no 357 Magnum version in that new version there. So the 357 Magnum is actually marketed as a target shooting round. Interesting. So we're going to test our Blazer jacketed hollow point 158 grain 357 Magnum. We were rated at 1150 feet per second. Our 40 Smith & Wesson is a 180 grain jacketed hollow point rated at 1015 feet per second. I'm going to use my 4-inch model Smith & Wesson 686 versus my 5-inch M&P 40 2.0. About the same amount of barrel travel in those. So it should be a pretty fair test. So I'm going to go through the chronograph, see what kind of velocity and accuracy I get at the same time. Then I'm going to do my 10% clear ballistic test. We're going to go into plain clear ballistics to see what the best potential of those cartridges are. Then I'm going to move on to do more of a real world simulation. 4 layers of sweatshirt material in this first 3-inch piece that represents our pectoral muscle. After that, a 1/4-inch medium density fiberboard to represent hitting ribs or sternum. And then I will shoot at the steel target to see what kind of practical accuracy I can get with these. So let's get started with this test. All right, first up we have our 40 Smith & Wesson 180 grain jacketed hollow point. We are rated at 1015 feet per second. Let's see how close we get to 1015 feet per second. 1005, 985, 982, 988, 981. So, I have a 5-inch pistol. We're still not getting rated velocity. Interesting. Our 357 Magnum rated at 1150 feet per second. See how close we get to that in my 4-inch revolver here. $12.28, 11.96, 11.97, 12.02, 12.13. So I'm pleasantly surprised with that. The rated velocity has it pretty low for a 357 Magnum. What I actually got is pretty close to standard velocity. Standard 357 is more like 1250 feet per second. We're close, but not quite there. So let's hit our ballistics gel block and see what we get. All right, our first shot in the plain clear ballistics, our best potential shot. Let's see what we get here with our 40 Smith & Wesson. All right, set that with our 357 Magnum. Let's go take a look. All right, I wasn't expecting to see any expansion at all with that 357 Magnum, but I do see some because, it is marketed as a target round and not a defensive round. So it does look like overall our 357 Magnum put quite a bit more cutting damage in there compared to the 40 on bottom, 357 Mag on top. So our 40 Smith & Wesson for penetration and everything is pretty good. And we do got some expansion that slowed it down. What we got going on here with our 40 Smith & Wesson is exactly 18 inches of penetration. Pretty good. Now our 357, a lot more damage going on there. And we over penetrated just a tad. Our total damage path went to about 21¼ inches of penetration. But that is a 158 grain, so sometimes 158 grains do go kind of deep. So not too bad performance overall with both of these. So let's put on our sweatshirt material, put on our rib simulation, see how they can continue to compare that way. All right, our real world simulation, 4 layers of sweatshirt material, 3 inches of clear ballistics to represent a pectoral muscle, 1/4-inch medium density fiberboard to represent ribs or sternum. Let's see how our 40 Smith & Wesson does. All right, let me set that back up. We'll hit it with the 357 Magnum. All right, 357 Magnum real world simulation. Let's see what this does. Let's go take a look. All right, so here's through our medium density fiberboard, our 40 Smith & Wesson, our 357 Magnum. I really cannot tell the difference between both of those. Very similar amount of size going through that. And because this is bigger than the starting bullet, you know, I can tell that this expanded even without looking at this. So what I got going on here is pretty good with both of those, to be honest here. A little more damage again with our 357 Magnum. With our 40 Smith & Wesson, we lowered that expansion just a tad there, and we over penetrated just a hair, 20 inches of penetration, but it's only a 2-inch difference there. So that would suggest that, you know, it's not getting a lot smaller versus the plain gel shot. Now our 357 Magnum, that improved the penetration quite a bit. We have a ton of damage and tearing going on, and our penetration there is about 18 inches, so about the same as the 40 Smith & Wesson in plain gel. So, you know, one over penetrated in plain gel, the other one did not, and then we reversed that through our real world simulation, where one over penetrated through that just a tad. So looking at this, I'm going to say I'm actually surprised by both of these. When I looked at that 40 Smith & Wesson, I kind of got Remington HTP vibes off it. Like, everybody knows that that'll pass right through 2 gel blocks and not expand. So this bullet is better. This bullet expands. Not bad performance overall. Now with our 357 Magnum, I figured that would zip through both blocks. I figured we would get maybe 1,000 feet per second because I thought those velocity ratings were inflated, and they're actually a little bit low. So we got higher velocity than what I expected. And then with the bullet design, I thought for sure that's not going to expand, and yet it did. So I would say for economy ammo that you can use, you know, the way these are kind of marketed as, they don't say it, but the way that they are kind of like the Federal Train and Defend, or maybe that's the Winchester version, one of those, where it's an economy hollow point that you could, it's cheap enough you can shoot it for target shooting, but it's also a pretty good defensive round, and that's kind of what I'm seeing with this. So I would say both of these are pretty good for what they are. I can't really say one's a lot better than the other. Very nice looking. So let's pull these out of the block. We'll take a close-up look at them. Then I'll shoot our steel, see what kind of practical accuracy I can get with these. All right, so here's a close-up look at these bullets going through plain gel. Here's our 40 Smith & Wesson. And to be honest, that is not that bad a performance for 40 Smith & Wesson. Even some of the better brands I've seen have issues with getting expansion sometimes, at least at these slower velocities like this. So that's pretty good. Our 357 Magnum, for being just a target bullet, that's got some really nice petals peeled back. That does look a lot like a plated, or kind of a gold dot style plated bullet. I believe these might actually be spear plinker bullets. So even though it's a cheap target bullet, it actually is very similar to a gold dot in the way that that jacket is on there. So it actually performed pretty decent. Now going through our medium density fiberboard here, things change up, and again, this is not that much dissimilar from gold dot. You see almost exactly the same type of thing going on, where it gets smaller going through our rib simulation. So it usually penetrates a little bit more, usually. So that's not a bad performing 40 right there overall. And a 357 Magnum. Again, this is something like what a gold dot would do. Get a little bit smaller. You can kind of see that plating on there, the way it is plated over that jacket. So yeah, not super consistent with that one pedal coming out, but I mean, honestly, not bad performance at all. So these are kind of like a poor man's gold dot ammo in my opinion here. You know, and for 158 grain, just being a target bullet 158 grain, I've tested stuff like that before and it never expands. But this stuff does. That bullet's decent for a target bullet. And I would say, even though it's marketed as target ammo, that's defensive ammo. That's as good as a lot of defensive ammo I've seen. Same with the 40 here, but this is marketed as defensive, but it performed pretty well for what it is. So that's a close-up look at those bullets. All right, 12 yards from the target, I'm just going to do some practical accuracy shootability drills with these. And what I mean by that is I'm not, you know, lining up my sights and slow firing and seeing how tight these are grouped. Practical accuracy is more like you're trying to hit the target as fast as you can. and a lot of other outside factors come into play that don't come into play in target shooting, such as, you know, how much recoil there is, will it cause a flinch, how much time for the muzzle to get back down on target, all sorts of stuff like that. So I like to just see how fast can I hit the target with these. So 40 Smith & Wesson, let's see what I can do here from 12 yards. All right, they'll shoot pretty good. 357 Magnum, same thing. I missed one because I didn't realize how much muzzle jump that was going to have. But then once I figured that out very quickly, I was able to slow down my speed a little bit. So yeah, so that basically tells you that in the heat of the moment, when your adrenaline's pumping, you know, you might miss with this, because if your brain isn't really focusing on that timing, you know, it might be a problem. With the 40, I didn't really have to think. You know, that's basically why I do these drills. So let me paint that up. We'll back it up, see how these continue to shoot for me. All right, 75 yards from the target, just for fun. I'm going to slow fire these things and see if I can hit the target from 75 yards. See if I can do it with our 40 Smith & Wesson here. Not too bad overall. I couldn't really find a very consistent place where they were hitting. I think most of them were kind of hitting high, but not too bad overall. Our 357 Magnum, let's see what I can do with this stuff. Try to figure out where these are hitting. Not so bad. So I would say both of those are about as accurate for me. I think I had roughly the same amount of misses. So I'm going to say I think this is pretty good ammo. I'm really pleasantly surprised. You know, it's one of these things with testing ammo. Sometimes you never know what you're going to get. You're going to test something that's real expensive, that's claimed to be really, really good, and then you test it and it performs terrible. And then you have days like today where you're pulling out some stuff, and like, I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to test these also in the short barrels, but let's test them in the longer barrels first to see if they're going to perform. And I'm thinking to myself, kind of wasting my time, because I know they're not going to perform even in these, because it's junk Blazer ammo. And then I'm completely blown away by the results. Like, wow, they expanded. They didn't over penetrate that much. They were pretty accurate. Price is right. So overall, it's pretty good ammo, and it's a good option for someone that's, you know, not really sure where they should go with ammo, and they want to get better with their gun, or they want to carry the ammo that they practice with a lot, and that's cost prohibitive when you're talking like HST. I once bought a box of HST 45 ACP plus P, 20 round box, about a month ago for like $48, because I couldn't find it anywhere else. And I found it at this one store, and I'm like, I need that for my testing. So when you're taking ammo like this, I don't remember what the costs were with these. I think they're roughly, you know, per round, like way less than half of what an HST is. Not bad performance overall for what you're getting here. So I'm pleasantly surprised. I think it's a pretty good ammo. So keep an eye out for the short barrel test. I'm going to test that at some point through my 3.2 inch G2C40 and my 2-inch Taurus 605. And we'll see if they continue to perform in the short barrels. So that's what you get today. So as always, comment, share, and like, and thanks for watching.